All right, let's get into it. Today, we're going to talk about the powerful, invisible forces that make us tick, what drives our actions and shapes our feelings. We're talking about motivation and emotion.
I mean, you see it all the time, right? These incredible acts of heroism. A firefighter running into a burning building while everyone else is running out. It's moments like that, these just extraordinary displays of determination that make you stop and wonder.
Yeah, really, why do we do the things we do? What makes one person run toward danger and another run away? Why do we pour our hearts and souls into some goals but completely ignore others? To even begin to answer that, we have to get a handle on this one core concept.
So, let's break it down. The word itself, motivation, it literally comes from the Latin word for to move. And that's exactly what it is. It's the force that moves us. It's the engine behind everything we do. And to really get how that engine works, we got to start at the beginning with our most basic primal programming.
So our first stop on this journey is inside our own bodies. We're talking about the fundamental systems, that biological blueprint that's designed for one main thing, keeping us alive.
You know, some of the earliest theories looked at motivation as this kind of psychological itch that you just have to scratch. That itch, that's what they call a drive. So when your body needs something, say water, it creates this drive, thirst, that pushes you, motivates you to go get a drink. And this whole idea is the basis for something called drive reduction theory.
And the whole point of scratching that itch, of reducing that drive, is to get back to a state of balance. That's called homeostasis. It makes sense, right? You're hungry, you eat. You're cold, you put on a jacket. The drive goes away, balance is restored. Seems pretty straightforward. But is that really all there is to it? I mean, are we always just trying to get rid of tension?
Yeah, probably not. I mean, think about it for a second. Why on earth would we ride roller coasters or watch super scary movies? Those things don't reduce tension, they actively crank it up. And that's where the optimum arousal theory comes in. It suggests that, we're not always trying to be perfectly calm. Sometimes we're actually looking for that sweet spot, that perfect level of engagement and excitement.
And this is where it gets really interesting. There's this thing called the Yerkes-Dodson law. Basically, our performance on most tasks looks like an upside-down U. If you're about to take a big test, you don't want to be so relaxed you're about to fall asleep, that's low arousal, but you also don't want to be so stressed out you can't think straight, that's high arousing. Your best performance, your peak, happens right there in the middle. It's that just right zone of alertness and focus.
Okay, but what happens when one of these basic fundamental drives goes, well, a little haywire? Let's talk about hunger. This number you're seeing, 39%, that's the percentage of adults worldwide who are dealing with overweight or obesity. It's a huge number. And it's a stark example of what happens when a basic biological drive gets tangled up with everything from our genetics to the food commercials we see every day. It's a really powerful reminder that even our most primal urges are incredibly complex.
Okay, so obviously we're driven by more than just staying alive, right? It's not all just about hunger and thirst. We look for connection. We want to achieve things. We need a sense of meaning. So now we're moving beyond basic survival to look at what it takes for us to really, truly thrive.
And you've probably seen this pyramid before. It's Maslow's hierarchy of needs. The basic idea is that we have to take care of the stuff at the bottom first. Physiological needs like food and water, and then safety. Once those are handled, then we can start to focus on the higher level stuff, like love and belonging, esteem, and finally, at the very top, self-actualization, which is really just about reaching your full potential.
So, that's one way to look at it. But a more modern take is something called self-determination theory. And this one really cuts to the chase of what we need, not just to get by, but to flourish. It says that every single one of us, no matter who we are or where we're from, has 3 fundamental psychological needs that are crucial for growth and a fulfilling life.
And they're pretty intuitive when you think about it. First, there's competence. We need to feel like we're good at stuff, that we're capable. Then there's relatedness. We need to feel connected to other people, to have warm relationships. And finally, autonomy. We need to feel like we're in the driver's seat of our own lives. And here's the kicker. When what we're doing satisfies these 3 needs, that's when we tap into a really powerful and sustainable kind of motivation.
And this is where we get to a really key difference in motivation. On one hand, you've got intrinsic motivation. That's when you do something just because you love it. It's rewarding in and of itself. On the other hand, there's extrinsic motivation. That's doing something for an external reward, like money, or to avoid a punishment. Now, both can get you to act, for sure, but it's that internal, intrinsic fire that usually fuels real passion and long-term fulfillment.
Okay, so let's shift gears a little. If motivation is the engine pushing us forward, then our emotions, they're like our inner compass. They're this rich, complex feedback system that's constantly telling us if we're heading in the right direction.
Yeah, emotions are the whole package, aren't they? You've got the physical stuff, like your heart pounding. You've got the conscious experience, that feeling of pure joy or sheer terror. And then you've got how you show it to the world, a smile, a frown, whatever. But the big question is, how do all those pieces fit together? And honestly, that's a debate psychologists have been having for over 100 years.
So, this leads to two really different ways of thinking about it. It's kind of like a chicken and egg problem. First, you have the James Lange theory. This one's a little weird. It says you see a bear, your heart starts racing, and then your brain interprets that racing heart as the feeling of fear. So the physical reaction comes first. But then, the Cannon-Bard theory says nope. It argues that seeing the bear triggers your racing heart and the feeling of fear at the exact same moment. They happen together.
And that leads to this really cool idea called the facial feedback hypothesis. It basically suggests that our facial expressions don't just show our emotions, they can actually influence them, that the connection between body and mind is a two-way street. Seriously, try it right now. Just force a smile, even if it feels fake. The research suggests you might actually start to feel a little bit happier. Pretty wild, right?
All right, so let's put this all together. We've got this engine, motivation, and we've got this compass, emotion. The big question is, how do we use these incredible tools to build a life that's happier and more meaningful?
Well, one of the biggest hurdles we have to clear is something psychologists call the hedonic treadmill. You know what this is like. You get a new job, a new car, whatever, and you feel on top of the world. But only for a little while. Then you just get used to it. It becomes your new normal, and your happiness level goes right back to where it was before. It feels like you're running and running, but emotionally you're just staying in the same place.
So how in the world do you get off this treadmill? Well, the research is actually pretty clear on this, and the answer might surprise you. It's not about waiting for the next big win. It's about small, consistent, intentional things. Stuff like keeping a gratitude journal, doing random acts of kindness for people, or just making sure you get some physical activity. These are the kinds of things that are proven to create real, lasting boosts in our well-being.
And maybe this is the most important takeaway of all. Happiness, it turns out, is usually a byproduct. It's not something you can just chase down directly. The most effective path to well-being isn't to focus on being happy. Instead, it's about committing to goals that are personally meaningful to you. Goals that connect back to those core needs we talked about: competence, relatedness, and autonomy.
So at the end of the day, understanding our motivations and our emotions, it's like being handed the blueprint and the tools to build your own life. These powerful forces don't have to be a mystery that controls you. The more you understand them, the more you can work with them to intentionally create a life that feels full of purpose. So the final question really is, what are you going to build?